Today, I want to discuss the entire history of pre-workouts. Pre-workout did not start with those C4 pre-workouts. It didn't even start with Jack3d, and it definitely did not start with the giant ingredient panels that we are seeing today. The modern pre-workout category goes back more than 40 years. And along the way, we had Ephedra, DMAA, and products that became absolute legends in the space. Products that disappeared almost overnight. Ingredients that got banned. Formulas that changed the entire supplement category as we know it. And eventually, an arms race to build bigger, stronger, more complicated pre-workouts got started. So today, I want to go all the way back to the beginning, and this is the history of pre-workout. And by the end, I think you'll understand why the products we use today look the way that they do. Before somebody put pre-workout on a tub, athletes were obviously still trying to get an edge before training and competitions. The most obvious example of this was caffeine. Coffee existed long before the supplement industry was ever even a thought. Athletes figured out pretty quickly that stimulants could make them feel more alert, reduce perceived effort, and help them trade harder. But there wasn't really a dedicated category at the time. You didn't walk into a supplement store and see an entire wall of products specifically designed to take right before you went to the gym. And that changed in the early 1980s. 1982, Ultimate Orange. If you want to point to the beginning of the modern commercial pre-workout category, the name that comes up over and over is Dan Duchaine. Duchaine was a controversial figure in the bodybuilding space. He became known as the steroid guru and was involved in some of the more underground parts of the bodybuilding culture scene. But in 1982, he developed a product called Ultimate Orange. And Ultimate Orange is generally credited as the first modern pre-workout supplement. Now, think about how strange that would have been at that time. Today, taking something before training is absolutely and completely normal. But back then, the idea of having a powder specifically designed to get you ready for the gym was a novel concept. Ultimate Orange eventually became famous for extremely aggressive stimulant versions, particularly those involving Ephedra. And that brings us into the first real era of the pre-workout category, the stimulant era. In the 1990s, Ephedra became huge, and not just in pre-workouts. We had fat burners, you had other energy products, we had weight loss supplements. Athletes and bodybuilders were combining different stimulant ingredients because they wanted one thing. They wanted energy. The philosophy behind pre-workout at this point was pretty straightforward. You take something, you get wired, you can go and train. That was it. This wasn't the modern idea of pumps, nootropics, hydration, focus matrices, and 10 different performance pathways. It was essentially, how hard can we turn the lights on? And Ephedra, combined with caffeine, became enormously popular. At the same time, another supplement was exploding. Creatine. 1992, creatine changes sports nutrition as we know it. Creatine really entered mainstream sports culture following the 1992 Barcelona Olympics. Reports came out that elite athletes were using it daily. Research was beginning to show that oral creatine supplementation could increase muscle creatine stores and support high-intensity performance. And suddenly, sports nutrition started becoming much more sophisticated. Instead of everything being about stimulation, people were thinking about actual performance enhancement, including strength, power, training output, recovery. Then creatine became one of the biggest sports supplements on the planet. And eventually, companies started combining ingredients. And that's important because the modern pre-workout isn't really one ingredient. It's a multi-ingredient system. And during the 1990s, that idea started becoming much more commercially viable. 1994, the supplement industry changes. Another huge event happened in 1994. The Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, known as DSHEA, became law in the United States. That law established much of the modern regulatory framework for dietary supplements. And the supplement market exploded over the following decades. We had more brands, more products, more ingredients, more competition, and eventually pre-workout becomes one of the most competitive categories in all of sports nutrition. But there was a problem with the old stimulant era. Some of these ingredients carried serious health risks, and eventually the regulators had to step in. 2004, Ephedra gets pulled. In 2004, the FDA prohibited dietary supplements containing ephedrine alkaloids. And that was massive, especially at the time, because ephedra had been everywhere, in everything. And suddenly manufacturers needed another way to deliver the same experience that the customers wanted: energy and intensity. That holy shit, I'm ready to train feeling. And that's when the pre workout category really started transforming into something that looks more familiar to us today. 2004, N.O Xplode and the pump era. Around the same time, BSN launched N.O Xplode. If you trained in the mid to early 2000s, you probably remember this tub. N.O Xplode became absolutely enormous at that time, and the name tells you what was changing. Nitric oxide, pump, blood flow, and now pre-workout wasn't just about more stimulation. It was about the workout experience entirely. It was more about energy, it was more about pumps, it was more about performance, and things like creatine, amino acids, and a huge blend of ingredients all shoved into one daily use product. This is where the giant multi-ingredient pre-workout really started becoming more mainstream. You also had products like Super Pump 250 and a bunch of others competing for the same customer. And then the supplement marketing just got louder. They started releasing crazy names, explosions, lightning, bodybuilders screaming on advertisements, and so on and so forth. Everything just became extreme. And then things got even crazier. In the late 2000s, the concentrated pre-workout era, the industry discovered something. Customers really like feeling their pre-workout. And if you create a strong enough sensation, people will talk about it. So the formula started moving toward highly concentrated stimulant products. Smaller tubs, tiny scoops, huge energy, and then one product became absolutely legendary. You guys already know what I'm talking about. Jack3d. Jack3d and DMAA. If you ask people who trained during that era to name the most famous pre-workout ever made, Jack3d is always in the conversation. The original Jack3d contained an ingredient called DMAA, also known as 1,3-dimethylamine. And people absolutely love the way that these products felt from an energy standpoint, a focus standpoint, an overall intensity standpoint. The whole pre-workout experience became almost recreational for some consumers. People weren't just asking, did you have a good workout? They started asking, did this thing really hit? And that mentality permanently changed the pre-workout category. Because once customers experienced very aggressive stimulants, brands started having to compete with that expectation. And Jack3d wasn't alone. You had an entire generation of high-stim products chasing that same customer. But eventually, DMAA became a regulatory target. Starting in 2012, the FDA began issuing warning letters concerning DMAA containing dietary supplements. In 2013, the FDA detained Jack3d and Oxy Elite Pro products after USP Labs initially resisted removing them. The company eventually agreed to destroy millions of dollars worth of DMAA products and stop manufacturing them with DMAA. And just like that, one of the most famous eras in the pre-workout history started collapsing. 2011, C4 helps take pre-workout mainstream. Around the same period, Cellucor launched their C4 Extreme pre-workout, and C4 eventually became one of the most recognizable pre-workout brands in the world. This represented another important shift in the pre-workout category. Pre-workout was moving out of hardcore bodybuilding circles, and it was becoming more mainstream. You didn't need to know some guy at a hardcore supplement store. You could simply walk into a major retailer and buy your pre-workout. More casual gym goers started using it. Even women started using pre-workout. College students were using it. Pre-workout went from bodybuilding culture into general fitness culture. And once that happened, the market absolutely exploded. The early 2010s were the wild, wild west, and this is probably the most infamous period in pre-workout history. You had companies constantly searching for the next stimulant. DMAA got targeted by the FDA. Then other stimulant compounds suddenly appeared. Then products got reformulated. Then another compound gets questioned. One of the wildest examples was the driven sports craze. Craze became legendary for its focus and stimulant effects. But researchers later tested samples and identified an undeclared methamphetamine analog called N-alpha DPEA. Think about that. People thought they were buying a dietary supplement, but independent laboratory analysis found a methamphetamine analog in those products. That tells you how insane portions of this industry were at that time. And it also explains why the regulatory conversation around pre-workout became so intense. The mid-2010s, the industry finally grew up. After the DMAA era, something interesting started to happen. Consumers started getting much more educated. YouTube started growing. Instagram was growing. Supplement review channels blew up. People started posting supplement facts panels reviews online. And then instead of consumers only asking, does it hit? Do I feel this? They started asking, what is actually in this product? What is in these products? And now you start hearing phrases like clinically dosed, fully transparent label, no prop blends. Consumers actually start comparing grams. How much citrulline? How much beta-alanine? How much caffeine? How much betaine? And suddenly, the formula itself becomes part of the marketing. And that's what created the next era, the formula arms race. Brands started to realize that consumers are taking screenshots of supplement facts panels and then comparing them online. So the ingredient panels started getting bigger. Instead of 6 grams of this, they started pushing 8 grams of this and that, and then even as high as 10 grams of something else. Specially trademarked branded ingredients, nootropics, pump ingredients, electrolytes, absorption ingredients, different caffeine sources, and everything just got bigger. And in some ways, that's great. Consumers demanded transparency. Most brands responded. But that created another problem. People started assuming that the product with the longest label automatically had to be the best product, and I don't believe that's true, not even in the slightest. Sometimes a focused formula makes more sense than throwing 15 different ingredients into a tub just so that the panel looks more impressive. And that's what brings us into the modern pre-workout era. The 2020s, the pre-workout becomes everything. Today, pre-workout isn't really just one category anymore. You have high-stim pre-workouts, you have daily driver pre-workouts, you have stim-free pump pre-workouts, you have nootropic heavy pre-workouts, you have hydration-focused products, you have pre-workout energy drinks, we have non-stim formulas, and products specifically built for late-night training. Then you have hardcore products, beginner products, and everything in between. The category became segmented because consumers aren't all looking for the same experience. And I think that's one of the biggest improvements that we've seen in the space. Instead of pretending one product is perfect for everybody, brands can build around a specific use case. When you look at the entire history of this pre-workout category, you actually can see the pendulum swinging. First, just get people stimulated. Then it became, let's improve the pumps and the performance. Then it became, let's make stimulants insanely strong. Then they switched to, let's make formulas more transparent. Then we moved on to, let's make the formulas huge. And now I think we're entering another stage where consumers don't necessarily want more. They simply want better. They want something built for the experience they're actually trying to have. And that's a huge part of how I think about INTELLEKT. I'm obsessed with formulating our products, obviously. But I've also realized something important. Nobody buys pre-workout because they want to stare at a supplement facts panel. They buy it because they want a great workout. They want energy. They want focus. They want pumps. They want to walk into the gym feeling ready to absolutely fucking train. The formula is what creates that experience, but the experience is what the customer is actually chasing. And I think that the history of pre-workout proves that. Ultimate Orange didn't become legendary because people were analyzing the label on Reddit. Jack3d didn't become legendary because people loved reading the supplement facts panel. N.O Xplode didn't become massive because everyone understood nitric oxide physiology. People simply remembered how those products made them train or feel during training. And that was the lesson. And that's what we're trying to build here with Intellekt. Products that people don't just understand, products that they actually want to use, products that they remember, and products they want to take again tomorrow. Now I want to hear from you. What was the first pre-workout you ever used? And what's the greatest pre-workout of all time? Was it Ultimate Orange? Was it N.O Xplode? Was it Jack3d? Maybe it's C4. Maybe it's something completely different. Maybe it's our Intellekt pre-workouts. Drop it in the comments because I guarantee this is going to start an argument. And if you want more supplement history, industry stories, product breakdowns, and an inside look at what we're building here at Intellekt, subscribe, follow for more, turn on the notifications. And if you want to try Intellekt for yourself, I'll put the link down in the description. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one.